If you work remotely and haven't seriously run the numbers on what moving to Orlando would do to your financial life, this video is going to be one of the most useful things you've watched this entire year. I'm going to show you the complete case, the tax math, the housing math, the lifestyle math, and the infrastructure reality for why Orlando has become quietly one of the top destinations for high-earning remote workers in the entire United States. And I'm going to be specific enough that you can actually apply this to your own situation. Hey everyone, welcome back. I'm Gianni Almeda, and today's video is specifically for remote workers. The digital nomads who've decided they want to put down roots, the freelancers who've built something substantial and are ready to make a real financial move, and the employees who have a permanent remote arrangement and have just been waiting for the right reason to act. The rise of permanent remote work is the single biggest change in Orlando's relocation market over the last 4 years. We used to see relocation driven almost entirely by job transfers and new employment. Now, a significant amount of growing percentage are buyers who are working remotely and are moving to Orlando for one reason that has nothing to do with the specific employer: the financial advantage of living here on an income earned elsewhere. Today, I want to make the complete case for why Orlando specifically, not just Florida, but Orlando, is the optimal destination for remote professionals who are ready to stop paying for a city they don't need to live in anymore. Let me start with the number that makes this conversation so urgent for high earners. Florida has no state income tax, zero. This is the foundation advantage that makes everything in this video possible. For remote workers specifically, this matters more than it does for people who are just changing jobs. If you work for a company headquartered in California, New York, Illinois, or any other high-tax state, but you are permanent remote, your state income obligation is determined by where you live, not where your employer is headquartered. The moment you establish Florida as your legal domicile, you stop paying your former state's income tax. Let me put some real numbers to this word. At $120,000 income, you're currently paying somewhere between $5,000 and $10,000 per year in state income tax. Depending on the state, Florida has zero. At $180,000, somewhere between $9,000 to $16,000 in a state income tax, Florida has zero. At $250,000, somewhere between $15,000 and $25,000, Florida again has zero. These are annual numbers every year for as long as you've lived in Florida. I want you to do this exercise. Take your current annual state income tax payment, multiply it by 10. That's what this move is potentially worth over a decade. Before we even talk about housing, before we even talk about lifestyle, before we talk about anything else, for a high earner on a permanent remote income, this is one of the most financial significant decisions you can make. There is one nuance worth being clear about. You need to actually establish Florida legal domicile. This means changing your driver's license, your voter registration, spending the majority of your time here, and genuinely treating Florida as your primary and permanent home. There are states, California in particular, that will pursue residents who attempt a partial domicile strategy. The standard advice: do it for real, do it completely, and work with the CPA on details of specific situation. Now, let's talk about the second transformation that happens when you move to Orlando on a remote income: what your housing dollar buys you. This is where I see the most powerful mindset shift in conversations with remote workers who have considered this move. They've been mentally anchored to what their income buys them where they currently live. Now, let me show you what the difference looks like. In San Francisco, $1.3 million gets you a 2-bedroom condo in a decent neighborhood, maybe 1,100 square feet. Monthly carrying costs consist of mortgage, HOA, property tax, probably about $6,500 to $7,500 per month. In New York City, the same $1.3 million gets you a 2-bedroom in Manhattan or a small 3-bedroom in maybe a good area in Brooklyn, monthly costs in a similar range. Now, in Orlando, at $1.3 million, you're buying a custom home, 4 to 5 bedrooms, 3 to 4 bathrooms, with a pool, 3-car garage, somewhere between 3,500 and 5,000 square feet, depending on the community and the specific build. In Windermere, Dr. Phillips, or a premium Lake Nona property, monthly carrying costs are probably around $5,500 to $6,500, potentially less than what you were paying in San Francisco for a fraction of the space. But here's what's even more relevant for most remote workers. You don't need to spend $1.3 million. Most remote professionals I work with are in the $500,000 to $800,000 range. And at that price point in Orlando, you are getting a genuine, exceptional property. A 3 to 4 bedroom home, 25 to 3,500 square feet, new construction or excellent resale in a master plan community with resort style amenities, excellent schools if you have kids, and a neighborhood that takes care of itself. Now, the monthly payment on a $650,000 home with a 20% down payment at current rates is roughly $3,200 to $3,600 per month, all in, including taxes, insurance, and HOA. In most coastal cities, that payment gets you a 1-bedroom apartment, not ownership, a rental. There's a reason where remote workers don't just move to any Florida city. it's worth explaining why Orlando specifically outperforms Tampa, Jacksonville, and even coastal markets for remote professionals. First, internet infrastructure. Lake Nona was explicitly designed with connectivity in mind. Gigabyte internet is available throughout the entire community. Loria Park and Meridian Park, two of the most sought-after communities within Lake Nona, have high-speed internet as a built-in in the neighborhood. Not just available from a cable company, but embedded in the community's infrastructure. For professionals whose entire income depends on a reliable, fast internet connection, this is not a trivial detail. Second, co-working ecosystem. Orlando's co-working ecosystem and shared office space scene has significantly grown in the recent years, particularly around Lake Nona and the downtown corridors. If you want a dedicated workspace outside of your home for a certain day or want to occasionally bring a client in person, the infrastructure is here. Third, airport access. Orlando International Airport is one of the most connected airports in the entire country. Direct flights to virtually every major U.S. city and growing international routes. For remote workers who still need to appear in person for quarterly meetings, all hands, or client visits, the ability to get anywhere in the country efficiently from your home city is a real quality of life variable. Most Orlando suburbs are 20 to 35 minutes away from MCO Airport. Fourth, time zone. This is an often overlooked advantage. Eastern time means Orlando remote workers are aligned with the largest business population in the entire country. Fourth, time zone. This is an often overlooked advantage. Eastern time means Orlando remote workers are aligned with the largest business population in the entire country. The Northeast, financial, tech, and business centers. For remote workers to do any amount of synchronized collaboration, not having to choose between your morning routine and a 7 a.m. West Coast call is a genuine daily quality of life improvement over living in the Pacific Northwest. Fifth, the lifestyle dividend. The ability to go home from a morning run on a trail or a paddle on a lake directly to your home office is not a minor thing. The separation of work and life, made possible by having more space, better outdoor access, and a community built around people who choose how they want to spend their time, is something remote workers who have made this move consistently identify as the most underestimated benefit. Doesn't show up in tax tables or real estate listings. What I call is the lifestyle math. Remote workers have a resource that salaried office workers don't: time sovereignty. The ability to structure your day around your peak productivity, your fitness, your family, and your creative energy rather than around a commute and an open plan office. Orlando is a city that genuinely is built to reward people who have that sovereignty. The trail systems in Lake Nona, 44 miles of connected paths, are used most heavily by people who choose when to run. The lakes in Winter Park are paddled most on Tuesday and Thursday morning by people who don't have to clock in at 9 a.m. for meetings. The farmer's market on Saturday morning becomes a ritual rather than a rushed errand because you're not exhausted from a 5-day commute week. The community culture in Orlando's best neighborhoods, Lake Nona, Loria Park, Horizon West, has been shaped by the influx of remote professionals who choose to be there deliberately. The community culture in Orlando's best neighborhoods, Winter Park, Loria Park, Horizon West, has been shaped by the influx of remote professionals who choose to be there deliberately. These are communities of people who have made the intentional decision to live somewhere specific. The shared intentional creates a social environment that remote workers often struggle with and genuinely find energizing. And the number I think about most when I have this conversation: what does your quality of life look like when you're 60? Remote work has given many people the opportunity that previous generations did not have to make a geographic and financial decision in their 30s and 40s that dramatically changed the trajectory of their wealth and lifestyle. The compounding of 20 to 30 years of no state income tax, home equity growth in a strong appreciating market, and the lifestyle of a place you genuinely love to live. That's not a minor variable. That's potentially the difference between financial independence and financial stress later on in life. If you're a remote worker who has been consuming content about this for the past few months and you're still waiting for the right moment, I'm here to tell you, the right moment is when the math works for you. And for remote professionals I speak to, the math works right now. Book a free strategy call, link is in the description below. Subscribe for 2 new videos every single week, and drop your income range and your current location in the comments. I'll give you a real-time estimate on what your financial picture looks like when you move here.